I never thought I'd be the guy who'd end up with a cheating wife. I mean, sure, every couple has their rough patches, but I always believed my marriage with Jenna was solid. We met at a mutual friend's party 5 years ago, and it was like love at first sight. She was this vivacious woman with an infectious laugh, and I was hooked. We clicked on so many levels: music, movies, and a shared love for that little bar downtown, the Rusty Tap. Things were great for the first few years. But lately I had started feeling a shift. It was subtle at first. Jenna, who usually couldn't wait to talk about her day, started coming home later than usual and texting a lot, always with that annoying smile on her face. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she was simply busy with work. But something felt off. Then there were the little lies. I remember one night she was supposed to meet up with friends for a girls' night. I had just finished a shift at the office and decided to surprise her with a late-night snack. I swung by the Rusty Tap, our go-to spot, to grab a couple of burgers. As I walked in, I couldn't help but notice Jenna at the bar, laughing a little too loudly with Jake, the bartender. He was a handsome guy, younger than me by a few years, and always had that smirk like he knew something we didn't. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. Something wasn't right. I thought about turning away, but instead I stayed, hidden behind a corner. What I saw next made my blood run cold. Jenna leaned into Jake and whispered something in his ear, her hand resting on his shoulder. That playful intimacy, something I hadn't experienced with her in ages, hit me like a punch to the gut. I left the bar, my heart racing and anger boiling inside me. I felt like I was in some crappy movie plot, one where the protagonist discovers that his world is a lie. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling, and sent her a quick text. "Where are you?" The response came quickly. "Out with the girls." You know how it is. I could practically hear her giggle through the screen. That was it. I knew. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being played for a fool. When she came home an hour later, I confronted her. "You're lying to me, Jenna. I saw you at the Rusty Tap with Jake." She froze, her face going pale. It was like I had flipped a switch. She tried to laugh it off, claiming they were just friends. But the look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. I could see the guilt creeping in, and it made me furious. Just friends, really? Because it sure looked like more than that. I yelled, my voice echoing in the silence of our living room. I watched as her expression changed from defensive to desperate. She started stumbling over her words, trying to convince me that I was mistaken, that they were just hanging out. She even tried to pull the "you've been distant too" card, which only added fuel to my fire. In that moment, everything I thought I knew about our life together shattered. I felt betrayed, angry, and utterly heartbroken. How could she do this to me? I thought we were building a life together, and here she was, throwing it all away for some fleeting thrill with my favorite bartender. The pain was sharp and raw. I wanted to scream, to cry, and to make her feel every ounce of hurt she had caused me. But amidst all that chaos, I realized I was at a crossroads. I had a decision to make: how to handle this betrayal. In the days that followed, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I was shocked, angry, and hurt. But more than anything, I felt a deep sadness creeping in. The woman I loved had made a choice that shattered our life together. I needed to find a way to move forward, but how? Would I confront her? Would I try to salvage our marriage? I decided I needed a plan. I couldn't just sit back and let this betrayal go unpunished. I wanted revenge, and I wanted to make her understand the weight of her actions. It wasn't just about hurting her. It was about reclaiming my life and my dignity. And that's how I came up with the idea that would change everything. I would open my own bar. Not just any bar, but one where I could control the atmosphere and make sure Jenna was banned for life. It was time for me to take back what was mine. The idea of opening my own bar was a whirlwind in my mind. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about transforming my pain into something tangible, something I could control. I spent hours researching, sketching out plans, and figuring out how to make it a reality. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. I had always dreamt of owning a bar, but the thought had lingered in the background, overshadowed by the comfortable routine of married life. Now, it felt like my only option for taking back my power. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the process. I found a perfect location on the corner of Main Street, a place with a rustic charm that suited my vision. It had great foot traffic and was close enough to the rusty tap. My bar would be a stark contrast, an inviting, warm space where I could create the atmosphere I wanted without the betrayal looming over it. I named it The Last Laugh as a nod to the irony of it all. As I went through the motions of setting up, I felt a sense of purpose return. I hired a contractor to help with renovations, and together we transformed the old, dusty space into a bar with a vibrant personality. I chose a mix of vintage decor, cozy booths, and a long wooden bar that glimmered under the warm lighting. I wanted it to feel like a second home for my customers, a place where they could gather, share stories, and unwind. I also put in a specialized drink menu that featured craft cocktails, local beers, and my own signature drinks. I even had an idea for a drink called the Bitter Truth, a cocktail that symbolized my own experience. Each sip would remind me of the betrayal and the strength I found in moving forward. The opening night was electric. Friends and family showed up to support me, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. I felt invigorated as I mingled with customers, sharing stories and pouring drinks. But deep down, I knew that the best part was still to come. I wanted Jenna to see what I had built, a place that stood as a monument to my resilience. One evening, about a month after opening, I received a text from a mutual friend, Mark. He let me know that Jenna had been asking about my bar and how it was doing. It was almost comical. She had never shown much interest in my dreams, yet here she was, wanting to know about The Last Laugh. It felt like a sign. I needed her to come in. I wanted her to witness what she had lost, the life we could have had together if she hadn't chosen to betray me. I devised a plan. I arranged for a ladies' night event, knowing she would likely show up, especially if she thought her friends were attending. I made sure to ban her for life, but I wanted to do it in a way that was memorable. I wanted to catch her off guard and witness the shock on her face when she realized she was not welcome. On the night of the event, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I had butterflies in my stomach, but it wasn't fear. I felt powerful. The bar was full, laughter and chatter filling the air. I worked the room, greeting customers and pouring drinks, all while keeping an eye on the door. Then there she was, Jenna, walking in with a group of friends, her laughter ringing out like a siren. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but mostly a sense of satisfaction. This was my territory now. I approached the bar and stood next to one of my bartenders, Casey, who was fully aware of who she was. "Hey, Casey, can you grab a drink for Jenna's table?" I said, keeping my tone light. Casey nodded and went to the back to whip up something special. I couldn't help but notice Jenna's expression change as she scanned the bar. Her eyes landed on me, and for a moment I saw a flicker of surprise, but it quickly morphed into a smug smile as if she thought she could charm her way back into my life. "Wow, you've done an amazing job, babe," she called out, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I felt the urge to retort but held my tongue. I wanted to savor this moment. Jenna made her way to the bar, her friends trailing behind her, giggling and pointing at the decor. She leaned against the bar, her smile unwavering. "I'd like a last laugh cocktail." "Please," she chirped, clearly trying to keep up appearances. I leaned in, my voice steady. "Actually, Jenna, I need to inform you that you're banned from here. We don't take kindly to cheating wives." The laughter and chatter around us died down instantly. I could see her friends exchange surprised glances, their expressions shifting from amusement to shock. Jenna's face went pale, her confidence crumbling in an instant. "What?" she stammered, disbelief written all over her features. "You can't be serious." "I am," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "You had your chance and you blew it. This bar is mine now and I won't have you here." A murmur began to ripple through the crowd and I could feel the weight of their eyes on both of us. Jenna opened her mouth, searching for words, but all she could manage was a stunned silence. It felt like a victory, but it also hurt to see her like this, stripped of her facade. For a moment we stood there, her in disbelief and me in resolute confidence. It was a powerful moment, one that marked the beginning of my true healing journey. I had taken a stand and there was no going back now. As Jenna turned to leave, I saw the anger flash in her eyes before she quickly masked it with a forced smile. You'll regret this. She spat, her words laced with venom, but I couldn't care less. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as she disappeared into the night. The decision had been made and the stakes had been raised. I had reclaimed my power, and now I was ready to move forward. Little did I know that the journey ahead would teach me lessons I never expected to learn. The aftermath of that night at the last laugh was like an explosion echoing through my life. I felt a strange mix of triumph and sorrow. I had taken a stand against the betrayal, but seeing Jenna so angry, so exposed, stirred something within me that I hadn't anticipated. It was liberating to assert myself, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness for what we had lost. Over the next few weeks, rumors spread through our social circle. Jenna's friends, who had once been our friends, seemed to choose sides. I received a flurry of texts from people asking what had happened, but I kept my responses short, not wanting to fuel any gossip. To me, it was simple. Jenna had made her choice, and I was done with the charade. Business at the last laugh was thriving. I enjoyed meeting new people, listening to their stories, and serving drinks that made them smile. My bar became a hub for laughter and camaraderie, a sanctuary where I could escape from the pain of my marriage's collapse. Casey, my bartender, was a good friend. We spent hours joking around, and she was instrumental in helping me create a fun atmosphere that kept customers coming back. But every time I saw a couple laughing together, it was a stark reminder of my own heartbreak. I missed the good moments Jenna and I once shared, the times when we'd laugh over cocktails and dance together at the Rusty Tap. It was a constant battle between wanting to forget her and holding on to the memories that now felt tainted. One evening, as I was closing up the bar, I received a call from Mark, my old friend. "Hey man, just wanted to check in on you. How's everything going?" His tone was light, but I could sense the underlying concern. "It's going well," I replied, wiping down the bar. "The place has been busy and I'm finally finding my rhythm." "Good to hear," he said, "but I wanted to talk to you about Jenna. She's really upset, you know." I rolled my eyes, a mix of annoyance and sympathy welling up inside me. Upset, she brought this on herself. I'm not going to play the role of the understanding ex-husband. I get that, but maybe consider talking to her. There's a lot of anger on both sides and it might help to clear the air, Mark suggested gently. I hesitated. The thought of facing Jenna again sent a wave of dread over me. I didn't want to talk about feelings or relive the betrayal, but part of me knew that unresolved anger wasn't healthy for either of us. "I'll think about it," I finally said, wanting to end the conversation. As I hung up, I couldn't help but feel a conflict brewing inside me. I had built this bar to reclaim my life and assert my independence. Why should I give her the satisfaction of thinking I cared enough to talk? Yet, I realized that avoiding her wouldn't make the situation any better. A few days later, I found myself standing outside the last laugh, taking a deep breath as I prepared to face Jenna for the first time since that night. She had reached out through a text, asking if we could talk. I decided to meet her at a nearby cafe instead of the bar. My bar was my sanctuary, and I didn't want her to see it as a battleground for our unresolved emotions. When I walked into the cafe, I spotted her sitting in a corner booth, her fingers nervously tapping against her coffee cup. She looked different, more vulnerable and less confident than I remembered. I slid into the seat across from her, and for a moment we just stared at each other, the tension palpable. "Hey," she said, her voice softer than I expected. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I'm sorry for everything," she began, her gaze dropping to the table. "I messed up and I know I hurt you. I never intended for it to go this far." I could feel my anger bubbling beneath the surface, but part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. "You say that now, but it felt pretty intentional the way it all went down." "I know, and I'm not asking for forgiveness," she admitted, looking up at me with tears in her eyes. "I just wanted to explain myself." "Go ahead," I said, crossing my arms. She took a deep breath and I braced myself. I was feeling lost in our marriage. I thought we were happy, but I felt like something was missing. When I met Jake, it was like, I don't know. It was exciting and new, and I didn't see it as cheating at first. I thought it was just harmless fun. "Harmless fun," I echoed incredulously. "You know, it's not just about physical cheating, it's about trust, Jenna. How could you betray me like that?" I made a mistake, she admitted, her voice trembling. I thought I could keep it separate, but then it spiraled out of control. I realized now that I was trying to fill a void instead of working on our issues, but I still care about you. I didn't want to lose what we had, but I didn't know how to fix it. Her honesty caught me off guard. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of all the moments we'd shared, the love that had once existed between us. But another part of me recognized her struggle. Everyone makes mistakes, and I had to admit my own failures in our marriage too. I get that you were feeling lost, I said finally, my voice steady. But how could you not talk to me about it? I would have listened. We could have worked things out together. I know, she sighed, looking defeated. I was just too far gone, caught up in the thrill of it all, but I don't want to be without you. It's too late for us, I said firmly, trying to keep my emotions in check. I can't go back to the way things were. You made your choice. I'm not going to forget that. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time, I saw the weight of her actions hit her. It wasn't a vindictive satisfaction I felt. It was more of a mourning for what we could have been. We sat in silence for a while, the cafe bustling around us. I realized this conversation was necessary. It didn't fix anything, but it provided some closure. I didn't want Jenna back in my life, but I needed to acknowledge the pain we both felt. As we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I had confronted the past, and while the hurt was still there, it felt less debilitating now. I walked back to the last laugh, ready to focus on my future, one that no longer included Jenna. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of my journey toward healing, and the surprises that awaited me in the wake of my newfound independence. After that tense conversation with Jenna, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders, but the road to healing was far from smooth. I threw myself deeper into running the last laugh, pouring my energy into creating a vibrant community and a place that felt like home to everyone who walked through the door. I wanted to build something positive out of the chaos, and it was working. The bar became a hub for laughter, friendship, and connection, a stark contrast to my life before. However, Jenna's presence still loomed over me, even with her ban from the bar. I couldn't erase the history we had together, and sometimes I found myself haunted by memories of our happier times. I'd be pouring drinks or chatting with customers when a song would play that reminded me of her. It stung, and I often found myself lost in thought, wrestling with the emotions that came flooding back. One night after closing up, I chose to unwind with a drink alone at the bar. I leaned against the polished wood, staring into my glass, contemplating the last few months of my life. Just then, Casey, my bartender and friend, walked over, noticing my somber mood. "Hey, you good?" she asked, pouring herself a drink and plopping down on the stool next to me. "Yeah, just thinking," I replied, taking a sip and trying to shake off the melancholy. "Thinking about Jenna," she prodded, and I sighed heavily. "Sometimes. I mean, it's hard not to, you know. She was a big part of my life for a long time. I keep trying to move on, but then something will remind me of her." Casey nodded, her expression sympathetic. "That's totally normal, man. It's a process. You've gone through a lot, and it's okay to feel conflicted. I just wish I could stop caring. It feels like a weakness," I confessed. "It's not a weakness, it's human." She paused, her tone shifting to something more encouraging. "You've done an incredible job turning this place into what it is. I mean, just look around. You've created something special here." "Thanks, Casey," I replied, feeling a bit of warmth creep into my heart. It's just hard to shake the feeling that I messed up too. I could have been more attentive, more present. I guess I just thought everything was fine. "Relationships are two-way streets. You can't take all the blame," she reassured me. "You learned something from this, right? Now you can focus on what you want moving forward." Her words resonated with me. I realized I needed to stop blaming myself and start owning my choices, both past and present. I had the power to shape my future, and it didn't have to be defined by Jenna or the pain she caused. The following weeks brought new challenges and opportunities. With spring around the corner, I decided to host a series of themed nights at the Last Laugh, karaoke Tuesdays, trivia Thursdays, and even game nights. I wanted to create an environment where people could let loose and have fun, just like I had envisioned. The karaoke nights quickly became a local favorite, attracting people from all over town. I watched as customers got up on the stage, belting out their favorite songs, laughter echoing throughout the bar. It felt incredible to see the joy on their faces, and it reignited something within me. I was building more than just a bar. I was fostering connections and creating memories. But amidst this progress, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease whenever I thought of Jenna. I knew she still lingered in the periphery of my life, and I was determined to not let her define my happiness. One night as I was closing up, I received a message from Mark. "Hey, you want to grab a drink tomorrow? I think you need to hear something." He texted. Curiosity piqued, I agreed to meet him at a bar down the street. When I arrived, I found him nursing a beer and looking unusually serious. I took a seat across from him, studying his expression. "What's up, man?" I asked, my gut tightening. "I wanted to talk to you about Jenna," he replied cautiously. My heart sank. "I've been hearing some things. She's not coping well. It seems she's been spiraling." "Spiraling? How so?" I asked, my interest piqued despite myself. "She's been drinking a lot, showing up at parties, acting out. I think she's struggling to accept what happened between you two," he explained. "People are worried about her." I felt an unexpected pang of concern. Despite everything, Jenna was still a human being, someone I had shared years of my life with. "What do you want me to do about it? I can't fix her problems." "I don't know, man. Maybe just check in on her. It could help both of you," Mark suggested, leaning forward earnestly. "I know you're mad, and you have every right to be, but maybe this could be an opportunity for closure." Closure? The term hung in the air, and I let it roll around in my mind. I hadn't considered that reaching out could provide some sort of resolution for both of us, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. "I'll think about it," I said reluctantly, and Mark nodded, seemingly satisfied with my response. As I walked back to the last laugh, I mulled over my options. Part of me wanted to put the entire situation behind me, but another part was curious about how she was doing. I couldn't deny that I still cared, even after everything that had happened. The following days were a whirlwind as I debated whether or not to reach out. I found myself distracted, unable to concentrate on bar details, and the karaoke nights, while fun, felt bittersweet. I realized I needed to confront my feelings head-on. Finally, one evening after a busy shift, I took a deep breath and sent Jenna a text. "Hey, I heard you've been going through a rough patch. I just wanted to check in. Hope you're okay." I was surprised by how quickly she replied. "I'm not okay, but thank you for reaching out. Can we meet?" I agreed, and we settled on a small cafe not far from the last laugh. The nerves washed over me again as I approached the meeting. I could feel my heart racing as I entered the cafe, spotting Jenna at a corner table looking fragile yet determined. When she saw me, her expression shifted from uncertainty to relief. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice shaky. "Of course," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "How are you really doing?" "It's been tough," she admitted, her eyes downcast. "I thought I could handle everything after we split, but I've been drinking too much and I keep thinking about what I lost. I miss you." The sincerity in her voice tugged at my heartstrings. I had expected anger or defensiveness, but here she was, showing vulnerability. "I miss the good times too, but things changed," I said gently. "You hurt me, Jenna. I can't forget that." "I know," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I've been trying to make sense of it all, but it feels like everything is falling apart." We talked for hours, sharing our pain and regrets. It was raw and emotional, but it was also cathartic. For the first time, I felt like we were addressing some of the underlying issues that had plagued our relationship: communication, trust, and the need for honesty. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure beginning to form. I hadn't forgiven her, but I had acknowledged our shared history. It would take time to heal completely, but I was on the right path. Walking back to the last laugh, I felt lighter, empowered by the conversation. I was ready to take the next steps in my life, to continue building my bar and rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. Little did I know that the journey ahead would still hold surprises, challenges, and even more growth. In the weeks that followed my conversation with Jenna, I felt a strange but welcome shift in my life. It was as if I had finally closed one chapter and was beginning to write a new one. The weight of our past didn't vanish entirely, but it felt less suffocating. I was focused on building the last laugh into a community hub, a place where laughter and connection could thrive, and it was working. As spring faded into summer, I decided to throw a big celebration at the bar. I called it Summer Bash, hoping to attract a crowd and create an unforgettable night. I organized games, drink specials, and even hired a local band to play live music. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuine excitement about the future. The event was a hit. People flooded in, filling the bar with energy and laughter. I moved through the crowd, connecting with regulars and welcoming new faces. As I stood behind the bar, pouring drinks and soaking in the good vibes, I felt proud of what I had created. I was no longer just a guy nursing a broken heart. I was a business owner forging my own destiny. But amid the celebration, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still unfinished business with Jenna. She had reached out a few times since our cafe meeting, and while we had exchanged a few texts, I hadn't seen her in person again. Part of me wanted to keep it that way. After all, I was finally starting to find my footing. But there remained a nagging feeling that we needed to meet again to truly put the past to rest. As the night wore on, the atmosphere was electric. Laughter echoed through the air and the band played our favorite songs. I looked around, taking in the smiling faces and the joy that radiated from the crowd when I spotted Jenna standing near the entrance. My heart skipped a beat. She looked different, more put together than the last time I had seen her. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she wore a sundress that accentuated her figure. A sense of nostalgia washed over me, but I quickly reminded myself of our history and the heartache that had brought us to this point. She caught my eye, and I waved, trying to keep my composure. I wasn't sure if she was here to support me or to stir up old feelings, but as she approached, I felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Hey," she greeted, her smile warm but nervous. "Hey, glad you could make it," I said, gesturing toward the bustling bar. "It's been a great night." "It looks amazing," she responded, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "I'm really proud of you." "Thanks," I replied, feeling a flutter of appreciation. "It's been a lot of work, but worth it." We chatted for a while, slipping into a rhythm that felt surprisingly comfortable. It was as if we were two old friends reconnecting, but I could still sense the underlying tension. I decided to take a leap of faith. "Jenna," I began, choosing my words carefully, "I think we both know that we have unfinished business. I want to talk about what happened between us, not for closure but to really understand." She nodded, her expression serious. "I'd like that. I've been reflecting a lot lately and I want to be honest with you." I led her to a quieter spot behind the bar, away from the noise and chaos of the party. The buzz of the celebration faded into the background as we settled into a more intimate conversation. "I've missed having you in my life," she admitted, her eyes searching mine. "Even with everything that happened, I still care about you. I can't just pretend our history doesn't matter." "I care about you too, Jenna," I replied, feeling a mix of vulnerability and strength. "But we can't go back to what we were. I don't want to be that guy who gets hurt again." "I understand. I don't want to rush anything," she said, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of the conversation. "I know I have a long way to go to earn your trust back. I've been working on myself, trying to find out who I am outside of all of this. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm trying to change." We talked about our experiences, the lessons we learned from our relationship, and how we envisioned our futures. It was cathartic, and for the first time since the affair, I felt like we were both taking accountability for our actions. As the night wore on, I saw a glimpse of the girl I fell in love with, the one with the infectious laughter and fiery spirit. And while I wasn't ready to leap back into anything romantic, it felt good to reconnect on a deeper level. Eventually, we both knew it was time to say goodbye. As we walked out together, the warm summer air enveloped us and I could hear the distant sounds of the band playing. "I'm really happy for you in the bar," Jenna said, her voice sincere. "You've turned your life around and I hope you continue to thrive." "Thanks, Jenna. I hope you find your way too," I replied, genuinely meaning it. We shared a lingering hug, an embrace that felt like both an ending and a new beginning. As I watched her walk away, I realized that while the past would always be a part of me, I was ready to embrace my future, whatever it held. Little did I know that my journey of healing was far from over. In the days that followed, as I continued to build the last laugh, I found myself faced with unexpected challenges and surprises, some uplifting, others testing my resolve. It was clear that I was on a path of growth, and the best was yet to come. The days following my heartfelt conversation with Jenna were a mix of relief and introspection. I didn't want to lose the momentum I had built at the last laugh, and I had new aspirations for the bar. I wanted to create a community where people felt heard, where they could share their stories and experiences, much like I had with Jenna. I was learning to embrace vulnerability, and it was empowering. As summer rolled on, I started introducing new events inspired by my journey. I organized open mic nights, encouraging people to share their stories, poems, and music. It became a platform for connection, and I was amazed at how much people opened up. The bar transformed into a safe space, and I felt proud to be part of something positive. However, the simplicity of life can sometimes be short-lived. One evening, as I was setting up for an open mic night, I received an unexpected visit from Jake, the bartender Jenna had cheated with. He strolled into the bar with a confident air, and I felt my muscles tense up as I recognized him. "Hey man," he greeted, his tone casual. "Can we talk?" I hesitated but nodded, guiding him to a quieter corner of the bar. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I came to apologize," he said, his expression sincere. "I know I messed up and I never meant to hurt you. It was never my intention to come between you two." "Then why did you?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. He took a deep breath. "Honestly, I didn't think it was serious. I thought she was unhappy but didn't realize how deep the connection really was. I didn't mean to cause you pain." I studied him, trying to gauge his sincerity. It was strange to see him here, acknowledging the fallout of his actions. "It doesn't change what happened," I replied. "You hurt both of us." "I know, and I'm really sorry. I've been reflecting a lot, too," he admitted. "I messed up a good friendship and I wanted to make amends. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I just wanted you to know." "Apology accepted, but I don't want any more contact between us," I said, holding my ground. "This is my space now, and I intend to keep it that way." He nodded, understanding my stance. "I get it. I just wanted you to know I regret my actions." As he left, I felt a strange mix of closure and empowerment. This was my life now, and I was developing the strength to face the consequences of the past. The open mic nights flourished, and soon they became a staple at the last laugh. Every Wednesday, people would line up to share their talents, their stories, and their struggles. I found myself increasingly connected to the community. It was a reminder that even in the aftermath of heartbreak, there could be light. One evening, a regular customer named Sarah took the stage. She shared a deeply personal story about overcoming her own struggles with love and betrayal. Her vulnerability resonated with everyone in the room, and by the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. As she stepped down from the stage, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over me. I realized how powerful it was to share our stories and how healing it could be, both for the narrator and the listeners. I was a facilitator in this space, and I felt honored to be part of a community that valued authenticity. The seasons changed, and with autumn's arrival, I found myself more at peace. Jenna and I had established a new understanding, one that didn't involve animosity but rather mutual respect. I occasionally saw her around town, and while it was still awkward, it was manageable. I had learned to compartmentalize my feelings and focus on what mattered, my bar and the connections I was building. One night, as the bar buzzed with laughter and the scent of seasonal cocktails filled the air, I caught a glimpse of Casey behind the bar. She was chatting with a couple of customers, and I felt a wave of appreciation for her support. She had been more than just a bartender. She had become a true friend and confidant. As the evening wound down, I found myself reflecting on all that had transpired since the upheaval in my life. I had navigated the storm of betrayal, faced the repercussions, and emerged stronger on the other side. I was no longer defined by my past. Instead, I was embracing my future. The last laugh wasn't just a bar. It had become a symbol of my resilience and growth. I was finally in a place where I could celebrate life's ups and downs, surrounded by friends and a community that had supported me through it all. As I closed up for the night, I felt a sense of peace settle in. I had learned that healing is a journey, not a destination. Every step I took, every moment I lived was a part of my story. And now it was time for me to write the next chapter, one filled with hope, connection, and new beginnings. I was ready for whatever came next.